الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الناصح الأمين. اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد. الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام والسنة. All praise and thanks belong to Allah for guiding us to Islam and for guiding us to the Sunnah. The strength and the health of any society can be weighed by its smallest social unit. The smallest social unit, bila shak wa bila raib, that it is that of the family. And when you look at the family from an itemized perspective, then it will consist of individuals. So the overall starting point for the rectification of any society, then it will begin on the individual level. Bidnillahi ta'ala, it is incumbent that we're looking at the members of this extremely important aspect of society, the family, then that family, it will begin with the husband and the wife. So it is important that we utilize the rules and the regulations, the principles that we learn inside of the deen of al-Islam, that we learn inside of the religion of al-Islam to govern our relationship, the relationship between the husband and between the wife and between the husband. And what will help us in doing that is that we learn something and we know about each of these individuals so that we may interact with them appropriately. So it is incumbent for the women to know something about the nature of the men so that they may interact with them appropriately. And likewise for the men, that they know about the nature of the woman so that they may interact with their wives appropriately. With that being said, the Prophet ﷺ, he gives us tremendous rules of engagement as relates to interacting with our spouses, and in particular speaking to the men. The Prophet ﷺ, as it comes in a hadith an Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, فيما رواه مسلم في الصحيح, and that which Imam Muslim he brings inside of his Sahih, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and I want you to pay very close attention, husbands, I want you to pay very close attention. Potential husbands, those who are looking to get married, I want you too to pay attention. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man kana yu'minu billah wal yawm al-akhir." Whoever believes in Allah and in the last day, whoever truly believes in Allah and in the last day, إِذَا شَهِدَ أَمْرًا, if he sees an affair, if he sees something, فَلْيَتَكَلَّمْ بِخَيْرٍ أَوْ لِيَسْكُتْ, then speak with good. If you see something happening, you have witnessed something, then you speak good or you be quiet. You bring a statement that is good or you bring silence. This is extremely important as relates to interacting with the wife. And for this reason, the Prophet ﷺ, after having said what you have just heard, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Istawsu bin nisa." Treat the women good. Be kind to the women. Treat them good. فَإِنَّ الْمَرْأَ, and then the Prophet ﷺ, so that we can better understand, he explains to us and he teaches us about the nature of the woman. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِنَّ الْمَرْأَ خُلِقَتْ مِنْ ضِلْعٍ. He said, because the woman, she has been created from a rib. وَإِنَّ أَعْوَجَ شَيْءٍ فِي الضِّلْعِ, and that verily the most crooked portion of the rib, فِي الضِّلْعِ أَعْلَى, it is the uppermost portion, its top portion. فَإِنْ ذَهَبْتَ تُقِيمُ كَسَرْتَ, if you try to straighten it, you will break it. وَإِنْ كَسَرْتَ وَإِنْ تَرَكْتَهُ لَمْ يَزِلْ أَعْوَجَ, and if you leave it alone, then it will remain crooked. فَاسْتَوْصُوا بِالنِّسَاءِ, so treat the women good, be kind to them, be gentle to them. This is a tremendous principle, if applied, will bring happiness to the family. And I want you to pay attention and to look at what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said. فقال الشيخ محمد سعيد رسلان حفظه الله تعالى فبين النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he explained and he made it clear to us أن المعاملة المرأة, that the interaction and interdealing with the woman لا يمكن أن تستقيم إلا مع بعض المداراة, that the interaction with the woman, it will not be upright, it will not be set aright, it will not be good, except that you have to have with it some appeasement. You have to have with it some appeasement, some flattery. إلا مع بعض الإغضاء, you have to have with it some being quiet about things, some overlooking and being quiet. إلا مع بعض, except that you have to have with it المسامحة, that you have to have with it المسامحة, that you overlook and you let things go. This is incumbent, and these things are required when interacting and dealing with anyone, but in particular when interacting and dealing with your wives. You have to have with it some flattery. You have to have with it some overlooking. You have to have with it some being quiet. You have to have with it some, I didn't see that, I didn't hear that, she didn't say that, because this will lead to a successful marriage. As the poet, he mentions, لَيْسَ لِكُلِّ قَوْلٍ جَوَابٌ وَالْجَوَابُ عَمَّا تَكْرَهُ سُكُوتُ. Not every statement requires a response. And the response often to that which you don't like is just to be quiet. The response to what you hear, you don't like it, many times is what? To be quiet. Why? Because in being quiet, the situation, it will not escalate. In being quiet, you will de-escalate a potentially damaging situation, a potentially damaging conversation that could potentially damage your marriage. So it is incumbent that as men, that we realize the nature of women and that we respond appropriately. And sometimes the appropriate response is to say nothing at all. Sometimes the appropriate action is to let it go. Sometimes the appropriate response and action is to let it go and to act as if you didn't even hear what you just heard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commands the men inside of His noble book, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and live with them in al-ma'ruf, good. Al-ma'ruf, it is translated because it's understood as good. But al-ma'ruf literally means that which is well known. Meaning what? That which is well known from good. That which is well known from good speech. That which is well known from good actions. That which is well known from interacting with individuals in a good manner. From that which is well known from listening. Naam. Because you have to be a good listener. This enters into what is good. If someone is speaking to you and spilling their heart to you, they don't want you to ignore them. They don't want you to act in such a way as if to say, I am not listening. What you're saying is not important. What you're saying is annoying me. But to listen in a good manner. Speak in a good manner. Interact with her in a good manner. Treat her in a good manner. Buy her gifts. So on and so forth. Everything that is well known to being good, that's what is meant by interact with her and live with her in good. Everything that is good, treat her in the best way possible. This is of extreme importance, and the men have to be men, and this is from what it means to be a man, is that you're able to carry the weight of the sharp statements that she may make. Carry the weight of the sharp looks that she may give you. Carry the weight of the sharp interactions in which she may give to you from time on and time again. Because remember, she was created from a dhila. She was created from a rib. And the most crookedest portion of the rib is at its top. The ulama, they say what this means. And I really want us to understand this so that we understand the nature of the woman. The ulama, they say what this means is that the mar'ah, inside of her nature, inside of the way she was created, she is one who is given to extreme jealousy at times. This is what enters into the most crooked portion, is at the top. Due to her atifa, due to her emotions, due to her passion, her emotions and the like, it may lead her to say things that you don't like. So the ulama, they say what enters into this, meaning that what's in the topmost portion is her tongue. Her tongue may be sharp because she's emotionally driven to say something to you. Her actions may be over the top because she has been driven by her emotions to act out in such a way. To act out in such a way and to say certain things that once the emotions subside, she apologizes. I'm sorry. You know I didn't mean what I said. So as men, we have to be able to recognize this. We have to be able to examine this and to analyze and realize that what is going on right now, what is motivating it, is due to these emotions. What is motivating her to say what she is saying is due to her emotions, because she is upset because I hurt her feelings, because I said something to her that cut her deep, because I interacted with her in a way that gives her the impression that I don't care, because I said something to her that made her cry, because I forgot something and she thought I should have remembered it, so on and so forth. So because of that, it triggered that emotion. That's why she said what she said. She's upset. So it is incumbent that we realize this, that we analyze this, so that we can prescribe the proper course of action, which is to let it slide, which is to blame ourselves, which is to be patient upon whatever she is saying, whatever she is doing, because we know we have pushed the emotional button, and this is the response. This is from what it means to be a true man. Not that you out-argue her, not that you abuse her, not that you shake her violently. No, this is what wimps do. True men, they are able to take it. True men are able to bear it. True men are able to let it slide because they understand where it's coming from, so they know where not to take it. هذا أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولجميع المسلمين فاستغفروا فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. يا عباد الله. It is incumbent as men that we learn to interact with our women in a most appropriate manner. It is also incumbent that we understand her nature, and that we understand that she was made from a rib, and that we understand that she is crooked. It is important that we know what is meant by crooked. What does crooked mean here? Because unfortunately, this hadith is to teach us how to interact with our wives. This hadith is to give us a principle to how we engage with them. Unfortunately, due to ignorance, some men don't understand this hadith, and then they utilize this hadith as a weapon against the women. And they say things to her like, well, you crooked anyway. Oh, look at you, your crooked self. Oh, you from a rib and you crooked. It is important that we understand that the crookedness here that is mentioned in this hadith is like the crookedness of the sickle. Meaning that what? That her straightness lies in her crookedness. We'll come back to this. قال الشيخ رسلان حفظه الله تعالى. Sheikh Raslan, he mentions, and this is why connecting ourselves to the people of knowledge, learning and studying our religion in ilm, in knowledge, This is how our lives are enriched so that we can understand properly. A person can't come and say, no, but I read the hadith, it's right here in Saheeh Muslim. You see they crooked. What you talking about? You read it, but you didn't understand it. Shaykh Raslan, he mentions, he says, هذا الضلع. He says, this rib, لا يؤدي وظيفته إلا مع إعوجاجه. He says that this rib, it is not able to fulfill its functionality. It cannot do its job without being crooked. The rib cannot do its job without being crooked. Feel your breasts. Feel your chest. You feel your ribs on your side? Huh? If your ribs were straight, how would you look, firstly? If your ribs were straight, how can they protect the inner organs? They can't do their job unless that they're curved. And that's why it said that the crookedness of the woman, therein lies her straightness. Her straightness is in her crookedness. Her crookedness is like that of a sickle. The sickle, that farm utensil, you cannot utilize it unless that it's curved. Without it being curved, you can't use it properly. That's why you do not use a straight blade machete for things that require a sickle. That's why you use a sickle, not a machete. Why? Because the sickle is more efficient. So in her crookedness lies her efficiency. And if you try to straighten her, you will break her. You will take her outside of herself. If you try to straighten her, you will break her. Straighten her so she's like what? More like a man? Is that what you intend? Of course not. It is best to leave her as she is, in her nature, because in that there lies the success. We have been made like this, they have been made like that, because the two fit together. When everyone is doing what is proper, when everyone is governing themselves by the book and the sunnah, when everyone is interacting in the right way, that's how things are proper. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that we are to, as he said, فَإِنْ اسْتَمَعْتَ بِهَا. And if you're going to enjoy her, if you're going to have a life of bliss with her, اسْتَمَعْتَ بِهَا عَوَ عِوَجٍ, then you will have to live with her based upon her curvature. You have to live with her based upon her crookedness, because in her crookedness is her straightness. In her crookedness is her functionality. She is crookedly functional. That is how she's supposed to be. And if you're going to enjoy her, you're only going to enjoy her while she is a woman, acting like a woman, have the nature of a woman, so on and so forth. Anytime you try to change the nature, then you will bring destruction to the situation. Reflect. The shaitan, he is the one who promised that he would get the human beings to change their very nature. Why? Because when the nature is changed, when the natural way that we have been created is changed, when our natural disposition is corrupted and polluted, that's what leads to our destruction. Shaitan knows that. You're trying to make her act like you, now the marriage goes, is over. If you straighten her, that is to break her. To break her is divorce. That's your fault now, right? So it is incumbent that we understand them for being who they are and we interact with them correctly. And as far as the advice to the women for the men, well, that's a topic for another day. Might be way more than one khutbah to deal with the issues of the brothers. على كل حال نكتفي بهذا فأقيموا الصلاة